The wallet was lying face down in a puddle near the grocery store dumpster, and Ryan Shepherd almost walked right past it before the leather caught the dim morning light. Ryan bent down, his knees protesting after another night on the warehouse floor, and picked up the soaked billfold. Water dripped from its edges, but even before he opened it, he could tell it was expensive, the kind of leather that cost more than his monthly rent. He glanced around the empty parking lot, then flipped it open, his breath caught in his throat. Hundreds. 20s. More cash than he had seen in one place in years. He quickly counted, his calloused fingers fumbling with the wet bills. $4,000, maybe more tucked in the back compartments. Behind the cash sat several credit cards, a driver's license, and what looked like a black American Express card. Ryan's hands shook as he read the license. Paige Richardson. The address listed was in Riverside Heights, the part of town where the houses had gates and the cars cost more than he would make in 5 years. The woman in the photo was striking, with dark hair pulled back and serious gray eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. He should keep it. The thought whispered through his mind like a snake. $4,000 would pay his overdue rent, catch up on utilities, buy his daughter Emma the winter coat she needed, maybe even get his truck fixed so he wouldn't have to keep taking 3 buses to work. Emma deserved so much better than the life he was giving her. She was only 7, and already she knew what it meant to go without. Ryan closed his eyes and saw Emma's face as she had looked that morning, eating generic cereal without complaint, wearing the same worn shoes she had been wearing for 6 months. His ex-wife Jennifer had left when Emma was 3, deciding that motherhood and marriage to a struggling construction worker was not the life she wanted. She sent birthday cards twice a year if he was lucky, and nothing else. It was just him and Emma against the world, and most days it felt like the world was winning. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't teach Emma that finding something that did not belong to you meant keeping it. He had been raised better than that, even if his own father had been gone since Ryan was 12. Some lessons stuck, carved deep into your bones until they were part of who you were. Ryan pulled out his phone, the screen cracked from when he had dropped it last month, and called the non-emergency police line. They told him to bring it to the station, and he explained he had to get to work, but would drop it off during his lunch break. The officer took his information and told him they would contact the owner. He arrived at the warehouse 15 minutes late, earning a glare from his supervisor, but he kept his head down and got to work loading boxes onto pallets. The 12-hour shift dragged, his mind returning again and again to that wallet, to all that money, to everything it could have meant. During his lunch break, Ryan took the bus to the police station and turned in the wallet. The officer who took it raised an eyebrow at the amount of cash inside. "You didn't take any of this?" the officer asked, not quite suspicious but close to it. "No, sir. It is all there. $4,200 according to my count." The officer looked at him for a long moment, taking in Ryan's worn work boots, the patches on his jacket, the exhaustion evident in every line of his face. "That is honest of you. Not everyone would have done the same." Ryan shrugged. "I have a daughter. Can't teach her to do right if I am doing wrong." He filled out the paperwork, declined the offer of a reward receipt, and headed back to work. By the time his shift ended at midnight, he had almost forgotten about the wallet entirely. His mind occupied with figuring out how to stretch $20 to cover groceries for the next 4 days, until payday. 3 days later, Ryan was walking Emma home from school when a sleek black Mercedes pulled up beside them. He instinctively put his arm out, pulling Emma closer to him. In their neighborhood, expensive cars usually meant trouble of one kind or another. The back window rolled down, and the woman from the driver's license looked out at him. In person, Paige Richardson was even more striking than her photo suggested. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than his monthly salary, and her dark hair fell in perfect waves around her shoulders. But it was her eyes that caught him, the same serious gray he had seen in the picture, now lit with something that looked like curiosity. "Are you Ryan Shepherd?" she asked. Her voice was smoother than he had expected, with an underlying warmth that surprised him. "I am. How did you find me?" "I have my ways." She opened the car door and stepped out, and Ryan found himself looking up slightly. She was tall, probably 5'10" in her heels. "The police told me you found my wallet, that you returned it with everything inside. It was not mine to keep." Paige smiled, and it transformed her face, softening the serious lines into something genuine. "Most people would not see it that way. $4,000 in cash, and you did not take a single bill." Emma tugged on Ryan's sleeve. "Dad, who is this?" "This is Miss Richardson." "I found her wallet a few days ago." "Emma, say hello." "Hello," Emma said, her voice small but polite. Ryan noticed her looking down at her worn sneakers, suddenly self-conscious in front of this woman who looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Paige crouched down, heedless of her expensive suit, bringing herself to Emma's level. "Hello, Emma. It is very nice to meet you. You must be very proud of your dad. He did something really special." Emma nodded. "My dad is the best dad in the whole world." Something flickered across Paige's face, an emotion Ryan could not quite read. She stood back up, her eyes meeting his. "I wanted to thank you properly. The police said you wouldn't take a reward." "I do not need a reward for doing the right thing." "Maybe not. But I would like to do something anyway. Would you let me buy you and Emma dinner? Nothing fancy, just a thank you." Ryan's first instinct was to refuse. He did not take charity, and he did not need some billionaire feeling sorry for him. But Emma was looking up at him with those big brown eyes, the same eyes her mother had, and he realized she could not remember the last time they had eaten at a restaurant, not even a fast food place. "Just dinner?" he asked cautiously. "Just dinner, I promise." Paige's smile widened. "I know a great pizza place nearby, very casual. My treat." Ryan hesitated another moment, then nodded. "Okay, thank you." The pizza place was indeed casual, a family-run Italian restaurant with checkered tablecloths and pictures of Italy on the walls. Emma's eyes went wide when she saw the menu, unused to having so many choices. Ryan watched as Paige talked to his daughter, asking about school and her favorite subjects, listening with genuine interest as Emma chattered about her teacher and the book they were reading in class. "She is reading above her grade level," Ryan said quietly, pride evident in his voice. "Smartest kid in her class." "I can tell," Paige said. "She is wonderful. You have done an amazing job with her." "I try. It is not always easy doing it alone, but she makes it worth it." "Her mother is not in the picture," Ryan shook his head. "Left when Emma was 3, decided she wanted something different from life. Can't say I blame her entirely. I was not exactly a prize catch, even then." "I doubt that is true." Ryan met her eyes, surprised by the sincerity he found there. "You do not know me. I know you found a wallet with $4,000 and returned every penny. I know you work so hard that you have calluses on your hands and exhaustion in your eyes. I know your daughter thinks you hung the moon. That tells me plenty." The pizza arrived, and Emma dove in with the enthusiasm of a hungry 7-year-old. Ryan ate more slowly, still feeling out of place in even this casual setting with this woman who clearly came from a different world. But Paige seemed completely comfortable, asking him about his work, his life, treating him like an equal rather than a charity case. "What do you do?" Ryan asked finally. "The police said you were important, that you had been very upset about losing the wallet." "I run a company." "Richardson Enterprises. We do commercial real estate development, among other things." "So you are rich," Emma said matter-of-factly, and Ryan felt his face heat up. "Emma, that is not polite." But Paige laughed, a genuine sound that made something warm unfold in Ryan's chest. "It is okay." "And yes, Emma, I have money, but money does not make you better than anyone else. It is just a tool like anything else. What matters is what you do with it and how you treat people." "That is what my dad says," Emma said. "He says being kind is more important than being rich." "Your dad is a smart man." After dinner, Paige insisted on driving them home. Ryan started to protest, but she pointed out it was getting dark and cold, and he finally relented. Emma fell asleep in the back seat almost immediately, exhausted from the excitement of the evening. "She is beautiful," Paige said softly, glancing in the rearview mirror. "You should be very proud." "I am. She is the only thing I have done completely right in my life." "I doubt that is true either." Ryan directed her to their apartment building, feeling the familiar shame wash over him as they pulled up. The building was old, paint peeling, windows cracked, nothing like the neighborhood where Paige probably lived. But she just put the car in park and turned to look at him. "Thank you for dinner," Ryan said. "You really did not have to do that." "I wanted to, and Ryan, I want to do something else too." He tensed. "I told you I do not need a reward." "Not a reward. A job. I am always looking for good people, honest people, people I can trust." "Richardson Enterprises needs a facilities manager for our downtown office building. It would be a significant step up from warehouse work. Better hours, better pay, benefits for you and Emma." Ryan stared at her, unable to process what she was saying. "You do not even know if I am qualified." "You have construction experience. You are clearly hard-working and responsible. That is qualified enough for me. The rest you can learn." "Why would you do this? You do not know me." Paige's eyes softened. "Because you returned my wallet." "Because you are raising your daughter right despite everything being stacked against you. Because I believe in giving people chances. And maybe because I see something in you that I respect." Ryan felt his throat tighten. "I do not take charity. This is not charity. This is a job offer. You would still have to work, still have to prove yourself. But I think you would do well. And Emma deserves to have her dad home at reasonable hours, to have health insurance, to not have to worry if you can afford her winter coat." The fact that Paige had noticed Emma's thin jacket, had seen the way Ryan's hands shook slightly from exhaustion, made something crack open inside him. He looked back at Emma, sleeping peacefully in the back seat, her face soft and innocent. Everything he did was for her. Every long shift, every aching muscle, every moment of bone-deep weariness, all for her. "What would I have to do?" he asked quietly. "Come to the office on Monday, 9 a.m. We will discuss the details, get you set up, see if it is a good fit. No strings attached. If it does not work out, no hard feelings." Ryan took a deep breath. Pride was a luxury he could not afford, not when Emma needed so much. "Okay, I will be there." Paige's smile was radiant. "Good, I will text you the address." He gently lifted Emma from the car, her small body warm and trusting in his arms. Paige wrote her number on a business card and handed it to him. "Ryan," she said as he turned to go, "thank you for being the kind of man who does the right thing even when it is hard. The world needs more people like you." He nodded, unable to speak past the emotion lodging in his throat, and carried Emma into their building. That weekend, Ryan borrowed a dress shirt from his neighbor and did his best to make himself presentable. Monday morning found him standing outside Richardson Enterprises downtown, a glass and steel tower that seemed to touch the clouds. He had dropped Emma off at school early, explained that he had an important meeting, promised her that everything was going to be okay. The lobby was all polished marble and expensive art. Ryan felt completely out of place, but he walked to the reception desk with his head high. The woman behind the desk looked him up and down, her expression skeptical. "Can I help you?" "I am here to see Paige Richardson." "I have a 9 o'clock appointment." Ryan shepherded. The receptionist's expression shifted slightly, becoming more professional. "Of course, Mr. Shepherd. Miss Richardson is expecting you, top floor." The elevator ride seemed to take forever. Ryan wiped his sweaty palms on his pants, trying to calm his racing heart. When the doors opened, he found himself in a sleek reception area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A woman in her 50s greeted him with a warm smile. "Mr. Shepherd." "I am Catherine, Miss Richardson's assistant. Please follow me." She led him down a hallway lined with offices and conference rooms. Through the windows, he could see people working, phones pressed to ears, fingers flying across keyboards. Everyone looked busy and important. Catherine stopped at a large office at the end of the hall and knocked once before opening the door. Paige looked up from her desk, and her face brightened when she saw him. She stood, and Ryan was struck again by how beautiful she was, even in the simple black dress and minimal jewelry she wore. This was her element, her world, and she commanded it with quiet confidence. "Ryan, thank you for coming. Please sit down. Catherine, could you hold my calls for the next hour?" "Of course, Miss Richardson." The door closed, leaving them alone. Paige came around the desk and sat in the chair next to his rather than behind the imposing desk, and Ryan appreciated the gesture. She wanted this to feel like a conversation, not an interview. "How was your weekend?" she asked. "Good. Emma was excited that I was coming here today." She told all her friends at school that her dad was meeting with a real businesswoman. Paige laughed. "I like her more every time I hear about her. So, let me tell you about the position. Our facilities manager oversees the maintenance and operations of this building. That includes managing a team of maintenance workers, coordinating with contractors, ensuring everything runs smoothly from the HVAC systems to the janitorial staff. It is a lot of responsibility, but I think you could handle it. I have never managed people before. But you have done construction work. You understand how buildings function, how things can go wrong, and how to fix them. You are reliable and honest. Those are the most important qualities. The rest, the paperwork and the people skills, you can learn. We would start you with some training, pair you with the outgoing manager for a few weeks before he retires." Ryan listened as she outlined the salary, and he had to keep his face neutral, even though the number was nearly double what he made at the warehouse. The benefits package included health insurance, dental, vision, a retirement plan, paid time off. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked. "People like you do not just hand people like me jobs like this." Paige leaned forward, her gray eyes serious. "I grew up poor, Ryan. Not struggling, but actually poor. My father was a janitor, my mother cleaned houses. They worked themselves to the bone to give me opportunities. I worked my way through community college, then university, taking every scholarship and grant I could find. I built Richardson Enterprises from the ground up over 15 years. So when I see someone like you, someone working himself to exhaustion to give his daughter a good life, I see my parents. I see the kind of person who deserves a chance, and I am finally in a position to give those chances." Ryan studied her face, looking for any sign of pity or condescension, but found only sincerity. "I will work hard, harder than anyone else. I will not let you down. I know you will not, so do we have a deal?" He thought of Emma, of being able to afford a better apartment, of having health insurance when she inevitably got sick, of not having to work midnight shifts and miss tucking her in. He thought of his pride, of his fear of owing someone something he could never repay. But mostly he thought of his daughter and the future he could give her. "We have a deal." Paige's smile could have lit up the entire city. She extended her hand and Ryan shook it, her grip firm and warm. "Welcome to Richardson Enterprises, Ryan. I have a feeling you are going to do great things here." The next few weeks passed in a blur. Ryan started his new position and immediately fell in love with the work. The outgoing facilities manager, a man named George who was retiring after 30 years, took Ryan under his wing and taught him everything he needed to know. Ryan absorbed it all like a sponge, staying late to study building codes and management techniques, arriving early to walk the building and meet his new team. The maintenance crew was skeptical of him at first, this newcomer who had appeared out of nowhere, but Ryan won them over with his willingness to get his hands dirty. When a pipe burst on the 3rd floor, he was right there in the mess helping to fix it. When the HVAC system failed on a Saturday, he came in on his day off to help get it running. He never asked his team to do something he would not do himself, and they respected him for it. He saw Paige occasionally, passing in hallways or during building tours with potential clients. She always stopped to ask how he was doing, how Emma was, if he needed anything. Their conversations were brief but warm, and Ryan found himself looking forward to those chance encounters more than he wanted to admit. Emma loved their new apartment, a two-bedroom in a much better neighborhood with a small playground nearby. She had new clothes, new shoes, and the joy on her face when Ryan told her she could pick out any book she wanted at the bookstore made every long day worth it. They were not rich, not by a long shot, but they were stable. Secure. The constant gnawing fear that had lived in Ryan's chest for years was finally beginning to ease. 2 months into his new job, Catherine called Ryan up to the executive floor. His heart jumped, wondering if something was wrong, if he had made some mistake. But when he entered Paige's office, she was smiling. "Relax, Ryan. You look terrified. You are not in trouble. George gave me his final report before he left, and he said you are the best person he has ever trained. The whole building is running more smoothly than it has in years." Relief flooded through him. "Thank you. I have been working hard." "I can tell, and I wanted to thank you properly. I am hosting a charity gala this weekend for children's literacy programs. It is a cause I care deeply about. I was wondering if you would like to attend as my guest." Ryan froze. "A gala? I do not think that is really my scene. Please, I know it is outside your comfort zone, but I could use a friendly face in the crowd. It is all donors and board members and people trying to impress each other. Having someone there who actually cares about making a difference rather than being seen making a difference would be refreshing. I would not even know what to wear. I can help with that. Please, Ryan, it would mean a lot to me." He found himself nodding before he could think better of it. There was something in her eyes, a vulnerability he had not seen before, that made it impossible to refuse. "Okay, but I cannot promise I will be good company." "You will be perfect company." The day of the gala, a tailor showed up at Ryan's apartment with a suit. Not rented, but custom made to fit him perfectly. Ryan started to protest, but the tailor explained that Miss Richardson had already paid and had been very specific about wanting something that would make Mr. Shepherd comfortable. The suit was beautiful, charcoal gray with a crisp white shirt and a tie that brought out the blue in Ryan's eyes. Ryan's neighbor, Mrs. Chen, agreed to watch Emma for the evening. His daughter made him spin around in the suit, clapping her hands with delight. "You look like a prince, Daddy." "I feel like a fraud," he muttered, but Emma wrapped her arms around his waist. "You look perfect. Miss Richardson is going to think you are very handsome." "It is not like that, sweetheart," but Emma just grinned, too knowing for a 7-year-old. A car picked Ryan up at 7, and he found himself being driven to the Riverside Hotel, the fanciest place in the city. The ballroom was spectacular, all crystal chandeliers and gold accents, filled with people in expensive clothes drinking champagne and making polite conversation. Ryan felt completely out of place until he saw Paige. She was standing near the entrance, greeting guests, and she looked absolutely stunning in a floor-length navy dress that clung to her figure before flowing out in elegant waves. Her hair was pulled up, exposing her long neck, and she wore diamond earrings that caught the light. But it was her smile when she saw him that took Ryan's breath away. "Ryan, you look incredible." "You look beautiful," he said, and immediately felt his face heat up. "I mean, the gala looks beautiful. You did a great job." Paige's smile widened, and there was something soft in her eyes. "Thank you. Come on, let me introduce you to some people." The next few hours were a whirlwind. Paige kept Ryan by her side, introducing him to donors and board members, including him in conversations about literacy programs and education initiatives. Ryan found himself relaxing, especially when he realized that Paige genuinely valued his opinion, asking him what he thought Emma's school needed, what would have helped him as a struggling parent trying to encourage his daughter's love of reading. When dinner was served, Ryan found himself seated next to Paige at the head table. She leaned close to explain who everyone was, her breath warm against his ear, her perfume something subtle and expensive that made his head spin. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly as speeches began. "I know this is not your world." "I am glad I came," Ryan said, surprising himself with the truth of it. "You are really passionate about this cause. Education changed my life. Books changed my life. They showed me worlds beyond my neighborhood, possibilities I never would have imagined otherwise. Every child deserves that chance, regardless of their parents' income." Ryan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw beyond the beautiful businesswoman to the little girl who had fought her way out of poverty through determination and dreams. "You are remarkable, Paige." She met his eyes, and something passed between them, a current of understanding and connection that made Ryan's heart race. Paige reached over and squeezed his hand, just for a moment, but the touch sent electricity through him. After dinner, there was dancing. Ryan had not danced in years, not since his wedding, and he tried to fade into the background, but Paige found him. "Dance with me." "I am not a good dancer." "I do not care. Please." She took his hand and led him onto the dance floor. Ryan placed one hand on her waist, took her other hand in his, and they began to move to the slow music. She fit perfectly against him, her hand warm on his shoulder, her gray eyes locked on his. "This is nice," she said softly. "It is," Ryan agreed. His heart was pounding so hard he was certain she could feel it. "Paige, I need to ask you something. Anything? Why did you really invite me tonight? I know you said you wanted a friendly face, but there must be other people you could have asked." Paige was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I wanted to spend time with you. Because over these last few months, I have found myself thinking about you more than I should. Because when I saw you in that suit tonight, my breath caught in my throat. Because I think you might be the most genuine person I have ever met, and I want to know you better." Ryan stopped dancing, his mind reeling. "Paige, we come from completely different worlds. So did my parents. My mother was a maid, my father was a janitor. They loved each other more than anything. The world they came from did not matter. What mattered was who they were together. I have a daughter, I come with complications. I know, and Emma is wonderful. That is not a complication, Ryan. That is part of who you are, and I would never ask you to change that." Ryan stared at her, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes, the hope and fear mixed together. He thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. She was his boss. She was a billionaire. She could have anyone she wanted. He was a single father with baggage and barely 2 nickels to rub together, despite his new job. But he also thought about how she made him feel. How she looked at him like he mattered, like he was worth something. How she had given him a chance when no one else would have. How she treated Emma with genuine kindness. How his heart raced every time he saw her. "I am scared," he admitted. "I have not been with anyone since Emma's mother left. I do not know how to do this, how to let someone in." "I am scared too," Paige said. "I have spent so long building my company, proving myself, that I have not let anyone close in years. But I think maybe we could figure it out together, if you want to try." Ryan cupped her face gently, his calloused thumb brushing her cheekbone. "I want to try." He kissed her softly, carefully, aware of all the people around them but unable to stop himself. Paige melted into him, her arms wrapping around his neck, and for a moment the whole world fell away. There was just this woman in his arms, this impossible, wonderful woman who somehow saw something in him worth caring about. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Paige was smiling. "That was worth waiting for." "Can we get out of here?" Ryan asked. "I know it is your event, but I just want to be somewhere we can talk, really talk, without all these people around." Paige nodded. "Give me 10 minutes to make the rounds, thank the major donors, then I am all yours." 20 minutes later, they were walking through the city, Paige's heels dangling from her hand, Ryan's jacket around her shoulders. They ended up at a late-night diner, sitting in a corner booth, sharing pie and talking about everything. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Ryan told her about Emma's mother, about the pain of being left, about his determination to never let Emma feel abandoned. Paige told him about the pressure of running a company, about the loneliness of being at the top, about how she had almost given up on finding someone who saw her as more than just her money. My last relationship ended because he could not handle that I made more than him, Paige said. His ego could not take having a girlfriend who was more successful. He wanted me to be softer, quieter, less ambitious. That is ridiculous. Your ambition is part of what makes you incredible. You really mean that? Of course I do. You built an empire from nothing. You give back to your community. You work harder than anyone I have ever met. Why would I want you to be less than what you are? Paige's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Do you know how rare that is? To have a man actually appreciate my success rather than feel threatened by it. Then those men were idiots, she laughed, wiping at her eyes. I like you, Ryan Shepherd. I like you a lot. I like you too, Paige Richardson, more than I ever thought I could like someone again. They talked until the diner started setting up for breakfast, until the sky began to lighten with the approaching dawn. Ryan walked Paige to her car, and they stood there in the early morning light, neither wanting to say goodbye. I need to pick up Emma soon, Ryan said reluctantly. I know. But Ryan, I want to do this right. I want to take you on dates. I want to get to know Emma better. I want to build something real with you, not rush into anything. That sounds perfect. He kissed her again, softer this time, a promise of things to come. Over the next few months, Ryan and Paige built their relationship slowly and carefully. They went on dates, sometimes fancy restaurants but more often casual places where they could talk without pretense. Paige came to Ryan's apartment for dinner, where Emma cooked them spaghetti and talked Paige's ear off about school. Ryan went to Paige's house, a beautiful modern home with floor-to-ceiling windows, and was surprised to find it warm and comfortable rather than cold and sterile. Emma adored Paige, and Paige clearly adored Emma back. She came to Emma's school play, sitting next to Ryan in the crowded auditorium and clapping louder than anyone when Emma took her bow. She helped Emma with a science project, the two of them spending an entire Saturday building a model volcano that actually erupted. She read bedtime stories in silly voices that had Emma giggling uncontrollably. Ryan fell more in love with Paige every day. He loved how she was equally comfortable in a boardroom negotiating million-dollar deals and on the floor playing Uno with Emma. He loved her drive and ambition, her compassion and kindness. He loved how she looked at him like he was the most important person in the world. He loved how she made him feel, not like a charity case but like an equal partner. Paige fell just as hard. She loved Ryan's quiet strength, his unwavering devotion to his daughter, his integrity and honor. She loved how he made her laugh, how he challenged her to think differently, how he grounded her when work threatened to consume her. She loved coming home to find him cooking dinner, loved the way he kissed her like she was precious, loved how he never tried to change her or make her smaller to fit his needs. 6 months into their relationship, Ryan was getting ready to ask Paige to be officially part of their lives. He had been saving money for a ring, nothing extravagant but something that would show her how much she meant to him. Emma was in on the plan, practically vibrating with excitement at the idea of Paige becoming part of their family permanently. But before he could propose, crisis struck. Emma came down with pneumonia, a severe case that landed her in the hospital. Ryan spent 3 days at her bedside, terrified as his little girl struggled to breathe, as doctors pumped her full of antibiotics and monitored her oxygen levels. His new job meant he had good insurance, but there would still be bills, still be costs that would set them back financially. Paige showed up at the hospital the first night, having heard from Catherine where Ryan was. She found him in the waiting room, his head in his hands, looking more broken than she had ever seen him. "Ryan," she said softly, and he looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "Paige, what are you doing here? Where else would I be?" She sat beside him and took his hand. "How is she?" "They say she will be okay. But God, Paige, I have never been so scared in my life. She is so small and she could not breathe, and I felt so helpless." Paige wrapped her arms around him, and Ryan let himself break down, let himself cry into her shoulder while she held him tight and whispered that everything would be okay. When he finally pulled himself together, she wiped his tears with gentle fingers. "I am sorry. You should not have to see me like this. Ryan Shepherd, you listen to me. I love you. Do you understand? I love you, and that means I am here for the hard times as well as the good. You do not have to be strong every second. You do not have to do this alone." Ryan stared at her, his heart somehow still capable of expanding even in the midst of his fear. "You love me. I love you. I have loved you for a while now. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell you. This might not be that moment, but I cannot hold it in any longer. I love you, and I love Emma, and I am not going anywhere." "I love you too," Ryan said, his voice rough with emotion. "So much. I have been wanting to tell you, but I was scared. Scared you would realize you could do so much better than a single dad with nothing to offer. You have everything to offer. You are everything I want." They held each other in that waiting room, and when the doctor finally said Ryan could go see Emma, Paige went with him. Emma was sleeping, oxygen tubes in her nose, looking tiny and fragile in the hospital bed. But when she stirred and saw them both there, her face lit up with a weak smile. "Dad, Miss Paige, you are both here." "Of course we are, sweetheart," Ryan said, kissing her forehead gently. "We are not going anywhere." Emma looked at Paige with serious eyes. "Do you love my dad?" Paige did not hesitate. "Yes, I do, very much." "Good, because he loves you too. He talks about you all the time, and I love you too. Can you be my mom? Not to replace my real mom, but just to be another mom, because everyone says you need a mom, and I think you would be really good at it." Paige's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Ryan, who nodded, giving her permission to answer honestly. She took Emma's small hand carefully, mindful of the Roman 4. "I would be honored to be your mom, Emma. If that is what you want, and if that is what your dad wants, then nothing would make me happier." Emma smiled, her eyes already drifting closed again. "Good, I want us to be a family." Over the next week, as Emma recovered and was finally released from the hospital, Ryan and Paige talked seriously about their future. They agreed they wanted to get married, wanted to be a family officially. But they also agreed to wait until Emma was fully recovered, until things had settled down. 3 months later, on a beautiful spring day, Ryan took Paige and Emma to the park where he and Emma used to come when she was little, back when they had no money for anything else. He had spent the morning setting up a picnic with help from Emma, who was fully recovered and back to her energetic self. After they ate, as the sun began to set and paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, Ryan got down on one knee. Emma stood beside him, holding a small box with a ring inside. It was not a huge diamond, but it was real and beautiful, and Ryan had chosen it carefully. "Paige Richardson, you came into my life when I was at my lowest point. You saw something in me I did not even see in myself. You gave me a chance, and then you gave me your heart. You made me believe in love again, made me believe I could be more than just a struggling dad, barely keeping his head above water. You love Emma like she is your own, and she loves you just as fiercely. We are better people with you in our lives, so I am asking, will you marry me? Will you be part of our family, officially and forever?" Paige was crying openly, her hands covering her mouth. Emma was bouncing up and down with excitement. People in the park had stopped to watch, smiling at the scene. "Yes," Paige said, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, absolutely yes." Ryan slipped the ring on her finger, and Emma launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around their necks. The three of them held each other, laughing and crying, as people in the park applauded. They got married 4 months later in a ceremony that was both elegant and intimate. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a white dress that she had picked out herself, beaming with pride as she walked down the aisle. Paige's dress was simple but stunning, and when she walked toward Ryan, he felt his breath catch just like it had the first time he had really seen her at the gala. The reception was held at Paige's home, with a mix of guests from both their worlds. Ryan's former warehouse co-workers mingled with Paige's business associates. Emma's teacher sat next to the CEO of another major company, Mrs. Chen, who had watched Emma so many times, danced with George, Ryan's mentor from work. It was a perfect blend of their two lives coming together. When Ryan and Paige had their first dance as husband and wife, Emma watching from the sidelines with joy written all over her face, Paige whispered in Ryan's ear. "Thank you for returning my wallet," Ryan laughed. "Thank you for coming back for me. Always. I will always come back for you." Life after the wedding settled into a beautiful routine. They sold Ryan's apartment, and he moved into Paige's house, though Paige insisted they redecorate together to make it feel like their home rather than just hers. Emma got her own room, bigger than any space she had ever had, with a window seat for reading and shelves for all the books she wanted. Ryan continued working as facilities manager at Richardson Enterprises, thriving in his role and earning the respect of everyone in the company based on his own merit. Paige continued running her business empire, but she made sure to be home for dinner most nights, to attend Emma's school events, to prioritize family alongside work. They were happy. Truly, deeply happy in a way Ryan had never imagined possible. The money was nice, the security was wonderful, but what mattered most was the love they had built together. The way Paige looked at him every morning like he was the best thing in her world. The way Emma called Paige mom without hesitation. The way they fit together like pieces of a puzzle finally finding their proper places. A year after they got married, Paige came to Ryan with a question. "What would you think about having another baby?" Ryan looked up from where he was helping Emma with her homework, surprised. "Really? You want to have a baby?" "I do. I love Emma so much, but I would love to experience pregnancy to have a baby with you. Only if you want to, though. I know you already have Emma, and if you feel like your family is complete, I understand." Ryan stood and crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. "I would love nothing more than to have a baby with you. Emma, what do you think? Would you like a baby brother or sister?" Emma jumped up, her homework forgotten. Yes. I would be the best big sister ever." They tried for several months, and when Paige finally told Ryan she was pregnant, he picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. Emma plastered the house with drawings of what their new baby might look like. Ryan painted a nursery, choosing soft yellow walls that would work for either a boy or a girl. Paige glowed, running her company while growing their child, proving she could do both without sacrificing either. Their son was born on a cool autumn morning, 8 pounds of perfect health with Ryan's blue eyes and Paige's dark hair. They named him James Robert Shepherd, after Ryan's father. Emma held him in the hospital room, supported by pillows, looking down at her baby brother with absolute adoration. "He is perfect," she whispered. "I am going to protect him forever." Ryan watched his family, his wife exhausted but radiant in the hospital bed, his daughter cradling his son with such gentle care, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. He thought back to that morning years ago when he had found a wallet in a puddle, when he had made the choice to return it even though it would have solved so many of his problems. That choice had led him here, to this moment, to this family he never could have imagined. Paige met his eyes and smiled. "What are you thinking about?" "That I am the luckiest man alive, that I would make that same choice 1,000 times over if it meant ending up here with you. Life with a newborn was chaotic but wonderful." James was a good baby, generally happy and easygoing, though he had his moments of crying that seemed to go on forever. Ryan took to fatherhood again like he had never stopped, getting up for night feedings, changing diapers, walking laps around the house with James against his shoulder at 3 in the morning. Paige pumped milk between business meetings, called home constantly to check on James, rushed back from work to have dinner with the family. Emma was an incredible big sister. She helped with James constantly, bringing diapers and wipes without being asked, entertaining him with silly faces and songs, reading him stories even though he was far too young to understand. The love she had for her baby brother was pure and fierce. As James grew from an infant into a toddler, their family dynamic evolved, but the love only deepened. James adored his big sister, following her everywhere, his face lighting up whenever she walked into a room. Emma taught him words, played endless games of peek-a-boo, protected him fiercely at the playground. Ryan and Paige's love matured and deepened too. They had been through so much together, the highs and the lows, and they had come through it all stronger. They still went on date nights, still made time for each other amid the chaos of parenting and work. They talked every day, really talked, about their feelings and fears and dreams. They supported each other unconditionally, celebrating successes and weathering difficulties as a team. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Ryan surprised Paige with a trip back to that park where he had proposed. They left the kids with Mrs. Chen, who had become like family over the years, and spent the afternoon just the two of them. "Do you remember when you found my wallet?" Paige asked, leaning against Ryan as they sat on a bench watching the sunset. "Every detail. I remember thinking my life was over, that I would never be able to give Emma the life she deserved. I remember seeing all that cash and being so tempted, but knowing I could not live with myself if I kept it. I remember getting the call from the police that someone had turned it in with everything inside. I remember being so shocked that someone had been that honest. I had to meet you, had to thank you. I told myself it was just gratitude, but I think I knew even then that you were special. I fell in love with you at that gala, watching you talk about literacy programs, seeing how passionate you were about giving kids chances. Dancing with you and feeling like I had finally found the person I was meant to find. But I was so scared. I thought you would realize I was not good enough for you." Paige turned to look at him, her gray eyes serious. "Ryan Shepherd, you are the best man I have ever known. You are honest and kind and hardworking. You are an incredible father and a wonderful husband. You make me laugh and you make me think. You support my dreams and you challenge me to be better. You are everything I ever wanted and more than I knew to hope for. I am the lucky one in this marriage." "I think we are both lucky," Ryan said, kissing her softly. "We found each other and we built something beautiful. We did, and I would not change a single thing." They sat there until the stars came out, talking and laughing, still as in love as they had been the night of that first dance. When they finally went home, they found James asleep in Mrs. Chen's arms and Emma reading quietly in the corner. Their family. Their life. Everything they had worked for and fought for and dreamed of. Years continued to pass, each one bringing new challenges and joys. Emma grew into a smart, confident teenager who still adored her family. She was involved in school activities, maintained excellent grades, and was already talking about going to college to study education, so she could help other kids the way literacy programs had helped her family. James grew into an energetic, curious boy who kept them all on their toes with his constant questions and endless energy. Ryan thrived in his career, eventually becoming Chief Operations Officer at Richardson Enterprises. He had earned the position through years of hard work and dedication, proving himself time and again. Paige had offered him the role based purely on merit, and everyone in the company respected his leadership and integrity. Paige continued to grow her company while also expanding her charitable work. The Literacy Foundation she had started became one of the most successful in the state, providing books and programs to thousands of children. She often told people that her family inspired her work, that watching Ryan struggle to provide for Emma while still encouraging her love of reading had shown her how important access to books was for all children regardless of their circumstances. On Emma's 18th birthday, they threw her a big party, inviting friends and family to celebrate this milestone. At the end of the night, after everyone else had left, Ryan and Paige sat with Emma on the back patio. "We have something for you," Paige said, handing Emma an envelope. Emma opened it and gasped. "College tuition, for all 4 years. Mom, Dad, this is too much." "It is not too much," Ryan said firmly. Your mother and I want you to be able to focus on your education without worrying about money. We want you to have every opportunity to chase your dreams. And we are so proud of you," Paige added. "The young woman you have become, the compassion and intelligence you show every day, we could not ask for a better daughter." Emma hugged them both, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. For everything, I know my life could have been so different. If Dad had not returned Mom's wallet, if you guys had not fallen in love, I might still be wearing shoes with holes in them and eating generic cereal and worrying about keeping the lights on. But you gave me this amazing life, and I promise I will make you proud." "You already have," Ryan said, his own voice thick with emotion. "Every single day." Later that night, after Emma had gone to bed and James was sleeping peacefully in his room, Ryan and Paige lay together in their bedroom, talking quietly. "Can you believe our little girl is 18? Paige asked. "It seems like just yesterday I was meeting her for the first time, this shy 7-year-old in worn-out shoes." "I know, time moves too fast. In a few months she will be off to college, starting her own life. Part of me is so proud and excited for her. Part of me wants to freeze time and keep her little forever. That is what being a parent is, I think, constantly letting go even though your heart wants to hold on. But we raised her right, Ryan. She is ready for the world." "We did raise her right. You are an amazing mother, Paige." "I hope you know that," Paige smiled, snuggling closer to him. "I learned from the best. You showed me how to put your children first, how to love unconditionally, how to make every moment count. You are my hero, Ryan Shepherd. You always have been. You are mine, too. You saved me, Paige. I was drowning, barely keeping my head above water, and you threw me a lifeline. You gave me a chance when no one else would have. You loved me when I did not think I was worthy of love. You built this family with me, this beautiful, crazy, wonderful family. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." They kissed, slow and sweet, a reaffirmation of the love they had built over the years. A love that had started with a lost wallet and a choice to do the right thing. A love that had grown through challenges and triumphs, through late-night feedings and first days of school, through business meetings and family dinners. A love that was as strong now as it had been the night they danced together at that gala, perhaps even stronger for all they had weathered together. When Emma left for college, they all cried, even though they were happy for her. The house felt too quiet without her energy and laughter filling it. But she called home regularly, came back for weekends when she could, and assured them constantly that she was happy and thriving. James, now 10 years old, suddenly had his parents' full attention, and he was not quite sure what to do with it. He missed Emma desperately at first, but eventually adjusted, growing closer to both Ryan and Paige in new ways. Ryan started taking him camping, teaching him about nature and survival skills. Paige involved him in her charity work, bringing him along when she visited schools and libraries, showing him the importance of giving back. The years continued their inexorable march forward. Emma graduated from college with honors and got a job at an inner-city school, working with underprivileged kids just like she had always dreamed. James grew into a teenager, passionate about environmental science and determined to save the planet. Ryan's hair started to gray at the temples, making him look distinguished. Paige grew even more beautiful with age, laugh lines crinkling around her eyes, her confidence and grace only increasing. On their 15th wedding anniversary, Ryan and Paige renewed their vows. It was a small ceremony with just family and close friends, held in the backyard of their home. Emma stood up as Paige's maid of honor, James as Ryan's best man. Both of them spoke about the love their parents shared, about how it had shaped their lives and shown them what marriage should look like. When Ryan and Paige exchanged vows they had written themselves, there was not a dry eye in the crowd. "Paige," Ryan said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. 15 years ago, I married my best friend, my partner, the love of my life. In those years, you have given me everything I ever dreamed of and so much more. You have been my rock, my soft place to fall, my biggest cheerleader. You have loved our children with a fierceness that takes my breath away. You have built a life with me that exceeds my wildest imaginings. I promise to love you for the rest of my life, to support your dreams, to be your partner in all things. You are my heart, Paige Richardson Shepherd. You always will be." Paige wiped at her tears, then took a breath. "Ryan, when I found out you had returned my wallet all those years ago, I thought I was just meeting an honest man. I had no idea I was meeting my soulmate. You have shown me what real love looks like. Not the fairy tale version, but the real, messy, beautiful, everyday kind of love. The kind that gets up at 3 a.m. with a sick child. The kind that celebrates every victory no matter how small. The kind that holds you when you cry and laughs with you until you cannot breathe. You are the best man I know, and I fall more in love with you every single day. Thank you for choosing me, for building this life with me, for being the father our children deserved. I promise to love you forever, in this life and whatever comes next." They kissed as everyone applauded, and then they danced, just like they had at their first wedding, at that gala where everything had changed. The song was the same, and Paige rested her head on Ryan's shoulder exactly like she had all those years ago. "We did good, did we not?" Ryan murmured. "We did amazing," Paige agreed. "I would not change a single thing. Not even finding your wallet. Think of all the hassle I could have saved you," Paige laughed, that wonderful sound Ryan never got tired of hearing. "Especially not that. Finding my wallet was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it meant you found me, or I found you. Either way, we found each other, and that is what matters." They danced under the stars, surrounded by family and friends, celebrating 15 years of marriage and a lifetime of love still ahead of them. Emma danced with James, both of them laughing at something, both of them so loved and so full of love themselves. Mrs. Chen sat at a table with Paige's assistant Catherine, the two of them having become close friends over the years. George was there with his wife, proud of the man Ryan had become. The backyard was filled with laughter and joy and the kind of happiness that comes from lives well lived. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Ryan looked around at everything they had built, the home they had made, the family they had created, the love they had nurtured. It had all started with a choice, a single decision to do the right thing even when it was hard. He had returned a wallet full of cash because it was the honest thing to do, never imagining the ripple effects that choice would have. That choice had led him to Paige. To a new job and a new life. To stability and security for Emma. To finding love again when he thought that door was closed forever. To James. To this family that filled his heart to overflowing. One choice, made in a moment, had changed everything. Paige slipped her hand into his, and they stood together watching their children, their friends, their life spread out before them. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. "That I am grateful. For you, for our family, for every moment we have had together. That I would do it all again in a heartbeat. That finding your wallet was the luckiest moment of my life." "Mine too," Paige said. "Mine too." They stood there together as the stars came out, two people who had found each other against all odds, who had built a love that would last a lifetime. The struggling dad who had chosen honesty over desperation. The billionaire who had seen past circumstances to the man underneath. Together they had created something beautiful, something real, something that would endure. And it had all started with a wallet in a puddle, a choice to do right, and a woman who came back for the man who had returned what she lost. In doing so, they had both found what they had been looking for all along, each other. Home, love, their story was not a fairy tale, it was better. It was real. Full of struggles and triumphs, tears and laughter, ordinary moments and extraordinary love. It was a life built together, one day at a time, one choice at a time, always choosing each other, always choosing love. And as they walked back into their home, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future brought, they knew with absolute certainty that their love story was far from over. It was just beginning. Because real love does not end with marriage or children or anniversaries. Real love grows deeper and richer with time, weathering storms and celebrating sunshine, adapting and evolving while remaining constant at its core. Ryan pulled Paige close and kissed the top of her head. She smiled and wrapped her arms around his waist. Emma and James were in the kitchen, laughing about something, their voices carrying through the house. Everything was exactly as it should be. "I love you," Ryan whispered. "I love you too," Paige replied. "Always and forever, always and forever." It was a promise they had made and a promise they had kept. Through struggle and success, through challenges and changes, through every moment good and bad, they had chosen each other. They had built a family founded on love and honesty and the belief that everyone deserves a chance at happiness. And they had proven that sometimes the smallest choices, the ones that seem insignificant in the moment, can change your entire life. Returning a wallet, offering a job, taking a chance on love. Each choice had led to the next, creating a cascade of moments that resulted in this beautiful life they shared. As they settled in for the evening, surrounded by the warmth and love of their family, Ryan reflected on how far they had come. From that struggling, Dad barely making ends meet to this man who had everything he ever wanted. Not because of money, though the financial security was certainly welcome, but because of love. Because he had found a partner who saw him, truly saw him, and loved him for exactly who he was. And Paige, looking at her husband and children, felt the same gratitude and joy. She had built a business empire and achieved success beyond her wildest dreams, but none of it compared to this, to the family she had found, to the love she had built, to the man who had shown her what real integrity looked like and had captured her heart completely. Their journey together was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead, more moments of joy and sorrow, more milestones to celebrate and obstacles to overcome. But they would face it all together, hand in hand, heart to heart, secure in the knowledge that their love was strong enough to weather anything. Because in the end, that is what matters. Not the money or the success or the big romantic gestures, but the everyday choice to love each other, to support each other, to build a life together filled with laughter and warmth and genuine connection. That is what Ryan and Paige had. That is what they would always have. And it all started with a wallet in a puddle and a man who chose to do the right thing, not knowing that the billionaire owner would come back for him and change his life forever. Not with money or charity, but with love. Real, lasting, beautiful love.